Welcome back to a special one-hour edition of Upfront, our final conversation with the candidates before the November 4th election. In our first half hour, we heard from Governor Scott Walker making his case for why he should be elected for the third time in 5 years. Now, Democratic candidate Mary Burke. Why does she deserve your vote? Mary Burke, thanks very much for being on the program again.
Well, thanks for having me, Mike. It's my pleasure.
Let's talk about turnout. You have said, others in the Democratic Party have said this election is about turnout. What evidence exists out there that tells you that turnout's going to be, for example, better than it was in 2010, much less 2012?
Well, I think we do a lot of, obviously, polling to see where people are at, and it is important. I think we just work hard because I believe that democracy is best when people vote, when their voice is heard. And so there are a lot of issues in this race. This is about the future of Wisconsin, and I think that there are big differences between Governor Walker and myself. I think people feel on both sides of it very passionately about issues, so I think there will be a large turnout.
This issue, primary issue in this race has been jobs. That's the issue you've talked a lot about, and the governor talks about the economy a lot. But his argument is, you know, we should compare records. And he says, if you look at my record compared to the record of Mary Burke, the former State Commerce Secretary in the Doyle administration, my record's better. Our administration did better. You're making the case you can do better. How can you make that case if your record isn't better?
Well, I would say my record is better. When I was Commerce Secretary, Wisconsin had 50,000 more jobs than we have today, and the unemployment rate was 4.8%.
But you were lagging in job creation. You would agree with that?
Well, it's a little bit comparing apples and oranges, because the fact is we were almost at our peak employment in Wisconsin. So it's harder to add jobs when you're already pretty much at the top versus when Governor Walker came in. There was nowhere to go but up.
He says the rate of job growth during his administration better than any time during your administration.
Well, every single state coming out of the Great Recession has created jobs. The fact is, Wisconsin under Governor Walker, take the entirety of his term, is creating them at a slower rate, much slower rate, 35th in the country, and out of 10 Midwestern states, 10th. So we aren't keeping up with the rest of the Midwest. We're not keeping up with the rest of the country, and that's the problem.
I want to ask you to comment on something that was written about in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Dan Bice wrote a story where they quoted the former Commerce Secretary, your predecessor in the Doyle administration, and he was quoted in an email as saying, she's a disaster, referring to you. What's your response to that when you saw that?
Well, it was in context of looking at a grant that I did not support and was not done. And the fact was, as Secretary of Commerce, I take responsibility for using taxpayer money wisely. And when we give grants out to create jobs, it's important that jobs get created. And the organization that they were lobbying for to get state funds, frankly, didn't have a good proposal and hadn't created the jobs in previous grants that were expected. And so, yeah, I make no apologies. I'm going to be a wise steward of the taxpayer money, and I'm not going to, just because people want to get grants, feel that they should.
Do you think we are too willing to give grants? Are we not asking some of the right questions when businesses come to the state and say, hey, I need help to do this or that?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about some of the grants that I've seen under Governor Walker. I mean, there's one company that got $6 million, and they could lay off half of their workforce and still keep that money. That's not negotiating very tough. I mean, I come from the business world. As an executive at Trek Bicycle, I mean, we negotiated, and you have to make sure that you're getting a good deal, particularly when it's the taxpayers' money.
It's hard to know, though, isn't it, sometimes? Because the Walker campaign come back and will say, Mary Burke signed off on a couple of things that did not pan out, that cost the state money. Isn't it hard to know when you're trying to make those calls?
Certainly there is, but there's also things that in the future that maybe you can't control or that a company did. But the deals themselves, what you sign up for, you are in negotiations. You do control it. And so to sign deals where a company can lay off half of its workforce and it gets $6 million, that's not negotiating very firmly. You've
been touting your private sector experience, the fact you were vice president at Trek, the bicycle maker here in the state of Wisconsin, successful Wisconsin company. You talk a lot about the fact that you took overseas sales from $3 million to $50 million. And yet there hasn't been documentation provided to really show that. It's a private company, I get that, But this is a very public job. Should the people of Wisconsin know more about your record as a Trek executive, be able to see for themselves whether your claims hold?
Well, everything that has been shown supports that. And the fact is, I went over to Europe, opened up, we had 2 small offices starting there, opened up 5 additional offices, grew sales very quickly, which helped to create more good-paying jobs here. And so, you know, Trek has substantiated that and stood by it, but they're not going to actually release privately held financial statements because it is a private company. They have competitors, and the competitors, I think, would, you know, they don't share information. So it's important to respect the privacy of the company.
Do you think the public knows enough about you and your experiences other than in the Commerce Department?
Oh, I think that there's been a lot of digging into my background, particularly by my opposition, to try to uncover things. And so I think that I've been pretty fully vetted about my background. And I'm proud of my record. I mean, Trek is an incredibly successful Wisconsin company, founded here nearly 40 years ago, has nearly 1,000 jobs right here in Wisconsin. And after I grew the European business, I was head of forecasting and strategic planning here for almost 10 years. Saw how a great Wisconsin company in a very competitive industry can continue to grow. And Trek's payroll over the last 20 years has almost doubled right here in Wisconsin.
I want to ask you a quick question about the allegations that have been leveled against you by the Republican Party that you plagiarized parts of your jobs plan. Parts were copied from other candidates' jobs plans. You've addressed that, but my question is this. How much damage has that done to your credibility, to your reputation, to how people think of Mary Burke?
I don't think a lot. I think we responded. I answered questions from day one. I was very straight about what my jobs plan was, and it is about the best ideas that are going to make sure that Wisconsin has a thriving economy. And right now it's not happening. We need more good ideas, Mike. I mean, this is the future of Wisconsin. And right now we're not on a trajectory that is going to have us creating the opportunities to keep our young people in the state and to have a healthy, growing economy. So I went out there, I looked and talked to people, I put the best ideas in there. The 5 core strategies that I've outlined there are ones that are unique to Wisconsin, and every idea that's in there are ones that I think are important to making sure our economy moves forward. And so everything that should be documented has been documented, and cut ties with the consultant that I used that used similar language that he used in other plans. He shouldn't have used that, but the fact remains is every single one of those ideas are good ideas that we need to be doing here in Wisconsin.
Let me take a quick break. We're going to continue by talking about other issues in this race, including taxes. Would Mary Burke look at rolling back some of the Walker administration's tax cuts?